What can you give us by way of team?
We're going to train hard today as we normally do. It's going to be hard for me to lock any in because I don't have them locked in yet. One of the reasons we've got a healthy list is we go hard in training sessions, and so we've got a main session in about 30 minutes where our boys will crash in. So I'm always mindful of saying this will be the team, this player, he will play, and then putting the mocker on it. It's an old coach thing that you don't risk those sort of things, and I want our guys to go hard today so they'll have a crack. But
is the temptation to play Draper or the temptation to not play Media?
Sid, like a lot of guys, has had a really strong pre-season, off-season, pre-season. Since we picked him up in the draft, as well as the boys that we acquired, Isaac coming across and Pete Ling and Neil Bull, and they've all had massive impact on our group. So they've all put their hand up, and they all want to play in this round one. The biggest thing for us is, and sometimes this is looked at, everyone wants to know what's the round one team. We're a squad, like we're going to rely on 30 odd players this year for us to get a result we're after, and it's important that we remember that round one's not the be-all and end-all. There are going to be some guys that are really stiff that miss out on round one, but they'll be an important part of what we're doing this year.
So if Sid doesn't play, what would be what's the pros and cons to not rushing in and going?
I mean, without going into detail, there's reasons we'd love to play him. The quicker you can get games into players, the better. The more they experience it, you can get things wrong out there, and there are things we know that he's going to learn from being out and amongst it. There are ways we can help educate him at a slightly lower level. So there are pros and cons either way. Ultimately, we'll make the right decision, we believe, like we've done in the past.
For those that say we're starting to get some consideration and Coppinelli injury needs part of the rotation, and you want to manage that sort of
There's a bit of talk around about City, obviously. I don't read as much media as you guys do, but there's a bit of noise, I guess, out there. Okay. There's a number of different ways you could look at it. A young guy coming in, the experience of playing on a big stage for the first time, a sub role might be appropriate. Or do you just let him loose and let him go, and if he does tire, maybe the possibility. But again, they're decisions we haven't locked in yet.
Miller has at times after a big injury been slow in his comeback to find touch. Is it better to bring him through the SNFL trials first or straight into play?
Fishing for another selection. We'd love to play junior. We want to get him out there on what is a ground he's played a lot of his footy. There's no doubt he's up to the level. He's an extremely talented player, and so if he's fit and he's raring to go, then he will play on our side. Well, again, he's fit at the moment. We've got to get through a session, and he's going to go as hard as any. He's one that he's pretty hard to tackle, and he doesn't mind sticking a tackle, so we'll see how he trains today.
From an overall perspective, I think it's been a bit of a narrative that you've had so many players doing the majority of the sessions this pre-season. Would you be any better prepared? Do you have a lot of confidence just based on the last 3-4 months you've had?
Yeah, we've got a lot of confidence in what the work our group's done for a number of years, and that's why we're in the position we're in. But, the healthy list at the moment is, we've got one or two that may not be available. That's years of work. That's not just this off-season and this pre-season. That's guys that have hardened themselves over time. They've learnt from each other. They train together throughout the off-season. And so we're quite proud of the way they go about that, as our players are. And there's a healthy competition at the moment for spots. Our guys know that there's going to be some that are a little bit hard done by to miss out, but unfortunately 44 doesn't go into 22 or 23, so we'll make the decision we feel is best for the group, and we're coming out to try and get a win this week.
Spoken so much to the club about narrowing the focus and talking about round one. It's here. Do you think you've achieved everything you wanted to achieve after this one?
Yeah, we're ready to play the Saints. That was our focus right throughout the off-season and the pre-season. So Sunday's it for us. We're locked in on that. I'm not even sure our guys know who's coming up next. Respectfully, we understand we've got great opposition in the weeks to follow, but our focus has been nailed in on this Adelaide Oval game against St Kilda.
I haven't heard anyone now praise for how St Kilda can win, but you underestimate them at your peril?
Oh, look, I know Ross Lyon. Ross coached me, and I know how good he is and what he's done with that group. They finished off last year and they were in outstanding form. They've got some real talent now. They move the ball exceptionally well. High end, A+. We know what we're going to have to deal with, and we're going to have to bring it this weekend. Like, the 2 games we watched last weekend, you can see the intensity lifts. Well, we know what we'll get from a Ross Lyon coach St Kilda. It's going to be a red hot contest early, and we're just going to have to match that and bring maybe slightly more if we can.
We spoke about your Miller. How much do you like theirs?
We don't talk about players from other clubs. I mean, he's a fantastic player. He's one of those guys I was talking about when you talk about, some of their really high-end talent. He stands out in the league. But yeah, they're going really well. They'll train today, and we'll make a decision off the back of training. We'll see how they pull up and whether we end up going with those 2 and make that decision. I think if they're both fit and they both get through the session well, then they've done everything we've asked of them through pre-season.
So they are in shape to finally get through the session. Keep you confident.
Yeah, this session's an important one. I mean, Maxie's hand's fine. He trained the last session. It's just we want to make sure that we get that right today. And he'll have to grab a jumper here and there with it. He'll have to spoil. He'll have to tackle. So that'll test him out, but we think he'll be okay.
How much can you unleash Isaac this season? Can we see even more midfield time, or will it be as things
Yeah, we look, there's no hiding. We want to try and get him around the ball as much as we can, and midfield's going to do that for us. It'll depend on how we're going as a team and how he's going as an individual, that sort of balance of what's working. I think he complements our midfield group. I think you've seen, Matty Crouch has been really strong throughout the pre-season, and I think it helps having that different dynamic in around him, the speed and the acceleration of Isaac. I think Saligo's taken his game to another level this year again, which is great, from where he was last year. You guys have mentioned, Sid has come in and he's a different dynamic as well, and then led by Dawson through there. So that the balance is going to be important, but I think Isaac will spend a bit more time around the footy this year than last year.
In terms of the style of play that proposed in 2024, last year maybe you were a bit more that sort of thing. Is that going to be for this year? Do you feel like it's going to be a bit more of that back 23 and a bit more pushing out?
Well, we hope so. When the bright lights come on out here and the pressure builds, we hope that's what we bring. It's what we've trained right throughout the off-season, and this pre-season's been about getting back our assertive style, taking the game on a little more, coming at the game, pressing the game, trying to play more in our forward half. Last year, you're right, and I think it's documented we were a little bit back foot, retreated at times, not by intent, just through a number of different things that we were working on. So this year we want to be that team that gets at the opposition, both when we don't have the ball and when we do have it.
Externally, do you think that the expectations about performance this year are higher than ever before in your team?
It is amazing how this week it seems to build that the expectation is off the charts. It's the same as last year. It's great. We like that. It means we're working hard. Our guys have done a hell of a lot of work. I think this pre-season, forget about results, but I think the product the boys put out there for the 2 games we played against Oppo was at the level we want it to be. We know, I mentioned it before, we know watching these round 0 that the intensity lifts, and we're going to have to lift. We know we've got a hell of a lot more improvement needed for us to fight for what we want, but I think our guys have got a lot of confidence at the moment that they're competent. We know we've got the game if we bring it.
You're a cricket fan,
Big cricket fan, yeah.
How much would you like to see a world where it's current thing that's going on in Southfield at the AFL and meet a common ground where all parties are happy?
Yeah, I think perfect world. That wouldn't it be great? For sport in SA, if we can do that. Health and safety for us is, I guess, front of mind. Just making sure we can get that right. But I mean, there's no venue like it. I don't believe in the country, let alone the world. And we've had Ryan Harris and his team in with us throughout last year, spent some time learning from them, and there's no surprise they're having the results they're having. Ryan's a fantastic coach, and we wish him all the best in the final, and we'll just keep working through that. No, I'm not across all the details of how it works. As I mentioned before, like our players, I'm locked in on Sunday. and have been for a while. So it's probably not a question for me to answer. I don't know the details of how the week structures up. But as I mentioned, I think the perfect world would be fantastic for the state.
In terms of foregoing a captain's run at Adelaide Oval or playing session like you're doing today, would that be a small price?
Yeah, small price for us is, our preparation changes, but again, we've been reasonably flexible in that over a number of years. Our guys know things change. Things change in games. We've got to be able to adjust. We've got to be able to play on instinct, and same with our training. So there's things we've got to have to work through. We understand.
When was the last time you had to get ready for a game? Last 12 weeks, did it change the preparation at all?
Well, it did. We've prepared today to train at the time. We'll run out at 12 o'clock, and we want to start our training session at 12:05 to get ready for it. It's unique. It makes it a little more difficult for the players to prepare. Like, what are you having, breakfast or lunch, or how are you going to prepare? Because it is a tough one to get right. But our guys have done a great job. They'll test run it today. What time did they wake up and so on, and hopefully we get some really good experience from that, and we're better for it Sunday.
Those had a lot of name and name the team yet, but probably safe to shoot the three big name recruits are going to be in there. Have you presented Guernseys to them yet, or was that a later task in the year to sort of make a bit of a special moment around that in terms of Guernsey, what it all means?
Yeah, we do. When it occurs, we make a special moment, but the last thing we're going to do in that space is do it before we go and train combat, and we're about to do it. So, no decisions have been locked in on what our team is as yet. It'll be after this, and then, we'll definitely celebrate the inclusions of the guys that are coming in and their families, and welcome them into our, it's the first time they're going to wear a Crows jumper officially, our actual in-season jumper. So, I'd like to think if everything goes well, the guys that we've brought in this year are going to make an impact for us.